This meeting is being.
Oh, it's it on live now? Live from Colorado. It's Tuesday night.
Yes,
Very
try and
nice.
take her
I
in
really
and
like that.
yeah, we're live. So yeah, we're here. We can start our meditation.
Okay. Whoa, what happened? You went away.
I went away.
Hold on.
But
Yeah. Oh, wait. I got Zoom United here. Let me get rid of this. No. I must have done something. Okay.
I'm here.
All right. I'm going to do the meditation now.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to take some deep breaths in and out and try to come into the present moment where everything is fine. Everything's good. We're not dealing with any weird craziness. All the weird craziness is in the past and in the future. We're right here in the present. Everything is wonderful. We have a roof over our heads and food in the fridge, and we're all doing good. So just focus on breathing into the heart. We're going to do that heart math connection thing again, where we just breathe into the heart, open up the heart. So now I'm just going to ask the creator of the universe to enter our hearts and inspire us to do really good art for the highest good of all concerned, and inspire us to discuss topics that are for the highest good, and help us to download information that we need to be able to navigate through these interesting times. And so it is. Woohoo! That was like a spin. All right, I'm gonna just share with you what I'm doing.
Okay, you saw me spin my camera around.
Yeah. So this is what I'm working on too right now. It is. I think I have two. I have two I could do tonight, but I think I'm going to work on this one tonight. And it's the inalienable right to defend yourself. And I'm doing this thistle. So this is actually the first one of these pieces that I'm actually using an idea that I came up with instead of just going intuitively. So it's getting to the point now where I'm starting. That just came into my head to do this one. And the sigil is this right here with the line through it. And that's what it means. It means I have the inalienable right to defend myself.
That's pretty cool.
So
I like how you got like it looks like some stems coming up in your sculpted frame thing around it.
yeah, well, I'm going to do paper clay and make big thorny leaves like a thistle has. But I just made a basis of cardboard so that it would have like a
That's pretty cool.
basis to rest on. So thank you. Yeah, I think I have to turn the light on. My studio is so full of cardboard and trash right now. I can barely move around in here, but I can't wait to clean it after I'm all done. But I need all the cardboard because I don't know how much more I'm going to need, till I'm done.
Yeah, you might need more.
Yeah, who knows? Like
recycling.
Yeah, recycling. It's amazing though. Like I'm bummed out because I can never use as much as I get. Like I get so much crap every day from the mailbox. There's no way I could ever, unless I was making giant sculptures. I don't think I could ever use as much as I actually get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So much junk mail, man. Huh?
Could see that.
It's freaking junk mail hell. But whatever. I don't know what to say about that. I feel bad about it, but it's just what is. It's like it's a what is thing that we have to deal with.
Yeah, it's just part of this materialism and shit that's going on.
But yeah, the mentalism is important because somehow I found for myself that I have to walk this line between knowing what's going on in a general way, pretty much, because I don't want to know the ins and outs of every little horrible thing, and at the same time being optimistic and thinking positively, which is it's a challenge. It's a challenge. I think for me it's a challenge because I'm generally negative by nature.
Yeah, I don't know. It's easy to go into those negative mind loops. I feel like maybe it's part of our like survival instinct that we tend to have thoughts of worry more than thoughts of like love and compassion. I don't know.
I think it's because we've been trained to be worried, because if we're worried, then we're not trusting the universe, and then we're going to go buy products which they create, I think it's mind control. I don't think it's human nature at all.
Right.
I think the human animal is like any other animal, and they just, pretty much are in the present, but they've trained us to be in a state of fear all the time because we're easier to control when we're in a state of fear. I think that's my personal take on it. But let's put it this way. I guess I could put it like I have a very bad habit of seeing the most negative outcome that could possibly happen, and then I kind of speak it into being. So I have to work against that really hardcore. Because I can bring on the most catastrophic things upon myself. And that's just my no, but I didn't even know that I was doing that for years, you know. I just did it without knowing it. But now I try not to, because I understand that thoughts are things, so I got to try to be careful.
Yeah, mentalism. Yeah, we got to remember
Mentalism.
we're talking about mentalism. Maybe we should back up a little bit and actually kind of do a little intro as to why we're talking about mentalism.
Oh, go ahead, do it. And even if you have the book, do you have the book? I have it somewhere.
Our book? Yeah, I can pull up our book.
Not our book. I mean, the Kabbalions' definition of mentalism.
Oh, I don't. I have that. I'm not sure. I don't know if I have that or not. But let me see here.
I wonder why my volume is so low. I don't know.
Well, what we're talking about are principles of natural law, and a principle is from the Latin noun principia, first, foremost, leading, chief, most necessary, first things. Okay, so principle basically just means the most important, some of the most important things to know. And so in natural law, there is a body of work referred to as the Kabbalion, which is a book that has 7 laws or principles. Actually, there's 8, but though the 8th one's kind of hidden, one's been occulted more than the others. And we're discussing the first principle, which is mentalism, which is the highest law or principle of these principles. And I'll do an overview of all the principles just so people aren't confused. You have the principle start, the top principle, mentalism, the principle of correspondence. Then you have vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. And so with all these principles, these make up the Hermetic, 7 laws or principles, which are detailed in the Kabbalion. You can find many versions of the Kabbalion that you can read. They're all pretty much talk about the same thing. Mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. Thoughts lead to manifestation of things. And manifestation of things and events. Thoughts create our state of existence and the quality of our experience here on Earth. So basically, mentalism is saying that the whole universe is mental, and then we're also, our minds are connected. You got the universe, which is like the big M, and our mind is like the little M. All within the singularity of the universe, universal mind. That makes sense. Let's see here. Let me see.
The all, yeah, the all is mental. In other words, this whole place is in the mind of the creator. It's an imagination or whatever, a creation of the mental of an, I guess. It's imagined by the creator. So therefore, since we are supposedly made in the image of the creator, we can use our minds also to manifest.
Yes, that is definitely part of it. Let's see, I was going to find. We did a book that you can get for free if you want to. Just contact us through our website at drawingnaturein.com, and we can get you a copy sent to you for free. It's called The Natural Laws of Oil Painting, and we made this book about 7 months ago or something, 6 or 7 months ago, as a free offer for when we were trying to be Mystery School of Art.
Which describes the 7 laws.
Yeah, we did. We kind of did like a parody of the Hermetic principles and related them to art.
Since art is a sort of a mimicking of the creator's actions.
Yeah.
This is our greatest, one of our greatest gifts is to be able to create. So mentalism, the law of mentalism, basically how I see it at this point is that I have to be super careful what I think about, because I can bring it into bring it into being through thinking about it. Thoughts, emotions, and actions, I can bring it into being.
Yes.
I can be not aware of my thoughts and my emotions, and then I will take actions which I'm not aware of and bring in what I was thinking about without even knowing it. Just got to be more careful about what I'm thinking about, what I'm feeling about, because we are creative.
Well, I found our mentalism page in our little book we made.
Okay, what does it say?
I'll go ahead and read it. It says, the all is mind. The universe is mental. The canvas is like a blank universe, with the artist's calling to inhabit it. Painting is the creation. The all is singular. It encompasses the other laws working together as one. There is a blank canvas. The artist adds paint. It becomes something. Painting itself is a beautiful meditation to practice the natural laws and unearth ancient knowing from the subconscious. We are going to break down the basic rules of painting, and then we will incorporate all into a unified whole. The goal of visual art is to reconnect ourselves to source. The power of painting from life opens channels to solutions and unlimited creativity. So yeah, mentalism. In a nutshell, it basically is just the whole universe is like a mental construct. For some people, look at it kind of like a simulation, like a computer simulation, or you know, I see it like kind of like we're being imagined by the creator, but it's the creator is not like a human like us.
Right, and you don't want to get into the solipsistic point of view with that, like where, you know, because it's all where you say, oh, it's all an illusion, so it doesn't matter what I do. That's not what this is about at all.
Right. No.
It may or may not be an illusion, whatever, but
This is more about, yeah, we're all contributing parts of the mental consciousness. So any action we take affects potentially every other being there is.
right, since we're all connected.
Uh,
It's like saying if you cut your foot, your ear is affected. You may not
yeah.
realize that, but it is, because it's part of the body,
Yes. Yes.
and all the nerve endings from all of the organs and different parts of the body all connect in the spine and in the feet and the hands. So anything that happens to one part of the body happens to the whole body.
Right.
So that means, like, you can't just ignore, like, if you see something bad, you can't just ignore it. I mean, you can think you're ignoring it, but it's still going to affect you because of the concept of mentalism and that we're all connected.
Mhm.
So,
Some effects are a lot more subtle than others too.
oh yes, very subtle. I mean, if you're not meditating, I mean, back in the day when we were telepathic, I think we probably were a lot more connected to what the effect of our cause was,
Mm-hmm. That makes
but
sense.
these days, I think we get away with a lot. We think we get away with a lot, but we don't actually get away with it. I don't think.
Nope.
So, yeah, I mean, I spent the earlier part of today at a farm where I've been volunteering to help do different things. Today, I shoveled compost onto blackberry bushes,
Oh, nice.
and there's a pig there. The mama pig that gets bred to make the baby pigs, and her foot is totally mutilated,
Oh no.
and no one's really done anything about it. So my friend and I decided to do we decided to see like how about our power. So we basically made a sigil and a drawing and put some crystals on it, and we're gonna see if we can heal her foot together. So to me, that is an enactment of the concept of mentalism, because we're using our imaginations and our care, the eighth principle, the occulted principle, to bring about healing through energetically for this pig. We're going to see what happens, because we're also trying, like, when two or more are gathered, we have exponential power. We're trying that out to see, like,
Oh yeah.
because the thing is we've been basically taught that that's not real and you can't do anything, but that I don't believe in any of that stuff anymore. I believe that's my responsibility, is when I see something that's not correct, that I try to correct it the best that I can.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend agrees, so we're gonna check it out and see what kind of solution, like, if we can, because if that will just inspire us to help more, do different things using our creative imagination and care.
Sure.
And in the past, I think what I would normally have done in a situation like that would have just been like, to just turn away from it, because I would have felt powerless to do anything about it. And then I'm not using. I mean, I think under the concept of mentalism, if I willfully ignore something, whoa, that's bad, 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 bad. Whew. because whatever comes into our sphere comes in to be dealt with, you know? If you just
Right.
ignore it, whew, it's not like it's going to go away. It's just going to pop up somewhere else.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or someone else will have to deal with it, and maybe they're actually shouldn't be the ones dealing with it. So that causes a whole nother chain of events that could be negative.
Right. I mean, like it says in the the law of cause and effect, that there are no accidents. There's only effects of the cause and causes of the effects. But most people you can't really, it's, unless we were spending our days studying this stuff, we probably aren't going to be able to see the effects of our cause and the causes of our effects. You know what I'm saying?
Like you saw something that you were supposed to, let's just pretend like a person sees something that they could totally had time and totally could have helped with, but they willfully ignored it. And so the next person that comes by sees the same thing, and then they're like, well, I'm running late in my, you know, so I really shouldn't stop and help, but I'm going to anyways. So they do, right? And so, but then now all of a sudden, because they stopped and they were late, the person that they were supposed to meet up with is now worried about them being late. And so that's actually, indirectly causing harm. Whereas the first person who were being ignored it had nowhere to be. No one is going to be worried that they're not going to show up on time. And so that, maybe that's a silly example, and that may not always play out in that way, but it's kind of an example of how that little subtle thing could affect, have negative effects, I guess.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty difficult for us humans to imagine the cause and effect of a situation, because it's just so vast. But it's like, what are those games called? Those sculptures where the ball starts at the top, and you know what I'm talking about, and then it goes down the chute, and sometimes it hits the bell, and you know what I
It's
mean?
like a
I wish I
Marble
knew
Madness. What is that game?
those games, like, and that's kind of like a demonstration of the law of cause and effect, which we're not really talking about today, but it's kind of hard not to talk about it.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. It'll be like a big elaborate thing, and then there'll be like a marble in there, and it goes down and it hits the bell, which
Yeah,
knocks the thing, and which
yeah, yeah,
triggers another
yeah, yeah,
sequence of events that's
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
affect that ball pretty soon. And if
yeah,
those
yeah,
events aren't
yeah,
triggered, the ball gets stuck.
yeah, exactly. That's a, very remedial example of the law of cause and effect.
Yeah.
But and the thing is, it's all mentalism. So basically, if I pay attention, which, if you think about that for a second,
And you're
paying
paying,
attention, that's like paying money, paying currency with my attention to
right?
events. um then I can use my mind, like I can actually say, well, what could I do to be helpful in this situation? And my friend and I, in this situation, we both were just, she warned me about the pig's foot originally, because she sent healing energy to the pig. So I'm like, well, let's see what we can do together, you know? And so like I got an intuitive thought on how to be helpful in a situation. And we made this little sort of visual prayer thing. And that's really the best that we can do, honestly, because it's not our pig, the pig belongs to the farmer. And for whatever reason, the farmer actually needs some healing too. And that's kind of what we're practicing for, because the farmer is sick, and if we discover that we have some healing power that is really, we can maybe help him.
Right.
And that's
We'll
probably
have
why
to-
he's not paying attention to the pig, is because his focus energy is on his own problems. But see, of course, if we were paying attention, we would know.
But then
Like, he
maybe
would know.
maybe his problem's actually worse because he's not dealing with the pig's problem.
I'm sure that's true. I'm
Because they're
sure.
connected, you know,
I'm
kind of.
sure. I'm very sure that that's true. But of course, in the times that we're living in, that would just be laughed at, right? So that's
Yeah.
fine. People are where they're at. My friend and I, we're the ones open to all this woo-woo shit. So we're gonna do our work.
You're gonna do your woo-woo work.
We're gonna do our woo-woo work and see what happens with it.
Woo!
But I mean, to me, that's like, mentalism, using mentalism and not ignoring these opportunities for.
Well, a lot of people would call that mentalism woo-woo. Like, what? We're all living in a mind of something? Hold on.
Yeah,
Even
take
though
off
there's
that
actually a
tinfoil
lot
hat
of
you're
there's a
wearing.
lot of like physics that's actually pointing to that's actually the universe's consciousness, which consciousness is kind of like is basically a form of mentalism, because you attribute consciousness with mind and mindfulness. Like, if you're super mindful, then you're super conscious. You're really in tune to the present.
It's true. Yep, and that's when they search out to find out what something's made of, and they find out it's not really made of anything. That's when it really does kind of indicate that maybe we are just a figment of the imagination of the creator, because matter isn't actually made of anything. There's so much
Maybe
space.
the creator, we don't even know what the creator is either. Like, everyone wants to like anthropomorphize the creator and make it like this human thing that we're like, it's like this giant human, God. But maybe it's not a human. Maybe it's like something completely different.
Yeah, maybe
it's
not.
Probably not a human, and it's probably something like beyond our even like being able to understand.
Right, we're more like the ants crawling on the color TV.
Yeah, I like the analogy of we're like the gut flora inside the thing, and we have no idea, like my gut flora has no idea how my getting a haircut could affect my their what kind of food they get, but
right,
that's beyond their, they're inside the gut.
above
If
their
they leave
pay
the
grade,
gut,
dude.
they die or whatever,
Their
or
pay grade.
their awareness isn't even their dim awareness isn't even equipped to observe the outer realms of outside the gut. So it's almost like a human, if a human was taken and put in the circumstances that our creator, whatever it is, we wouldn't even have the sensory apparatus to understand what we would be taken in. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, but the one thing we do know, I think one thing we can say about the creator is that it is creative, and it's pro living things.
I think so, yeah, and it's pro things that reduce entropy too. So, it likes stuff that works together and creates synergy. It doesn't really like things that create, turbulence or entropy. In fact, there's even scientific data that's correlates that, as far as like certain creatures that have gone extinct because they're kind of just like it didn't make sense. It's almost like more work for them to survive than to not survive. So they just went away.
Yeah.
So we might have to be pretty careful as a humanity. Like, how are we creating
A
syntropy, or are
situation
we?
where it's harder for us to survive. Yep.
I mean, are we creating syntropy, or are we making things easier on us, on the planet, on everyone? Or are we making things harder on everything?
Well,
Because if
gee,
we're
that's a
making
hard
things
question.
harder on everything, the universe might just change the conditions of our planet so we're no longer able to survive here.
Or we can just like try to do it in, do the best we can on an individual basis while we're here, so that,
Well, yeah. I think that's part of it
I
because
mean, I
it's like
can't, yeah, I
one
can't
soul at a time.
one soul at a
The
time.
more souls that lead by example and are good and do things to reduce entropy, the more likely we're going to stick around as a species.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, like recently I noticed, again, the negativity was creeping in. So I really try to temper my negative. Well, first of all, I've tried to stop speaking it out. Like when I want to point out, oh, well, this is obviously blah, blah, blah. I
Mm-hmm.
try to now shut up and ask myself, really, is this important? Is this information really necessary? Do I have all the information?
Should I be reinforcing this negative thing
Exactly.
by by just
Exactly.
speaking about it again? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's because it's like, I think for me, it's an egoic thing, but I have rarely been correct. I mean, that's the thing about it. It's like my fears never really do come true. So maybe I don't need to
Spend
be
that
right
much
about
energy
that.
on
Huh?
or spend that much energy on those fears.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, um, yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's just an interesting, trying to utilize this superpower of mentalism for the good, you know,
Yeah.
how to do that, how to do that, how to do that. I did an exercise many years ago in 2007, actually, the 7-day mental diet, where I followed this direction by this guy, Emmett Fox, to try to think no negative thoughts for 7 days. Woo!
Oh,
That
yeah.
was hardcore.
Was there some book, I can't remember, it's called something like Rainbow Body, and like it's about these Buddhist monks who there's this thing called Rainbow Body where they apparently you have to meditate for like 17 or years or 18 years or something like that, and pretty much you have to have for like 18 years you can't have any negative thoughts. You have to have all thoughts of love and compassion while you're meditating, and then your body like shrinks down and you turn into like a pure light rainbow energy. And like apparently there's like collections somewhere of like little like charcoal figurines of these monks that turn themselves into rainbow body,
Oh,
because
cool.
like because
Right,
they
that's
like
neat.
wither down into just like this little piece of like charcoal basically after they like that's their whole body. It's
Wow.
only like about the size of like your fist or
Wow.
something. And there's been sightings like when these monks do this where like there's actually rainbow light comes up out of the temple above it and stuff.
Wow.
And
Well,
but
I'm
anyways,
just I'm just gonna say put out there, like, I didn't do it for 18 years. I did it for 7 days. And actually it was pretty amazing because I was actually able to do it for 7 days. I mean, I did have negative thoughts come in, but what they suggested was that you just flick them off like an ash that flew out of the fire and landed on your shirt. You just flick it off right away, just not indulge yourself in it. And literally, I have experienced as a result of doing that thing, like a much easier, it's much easier for me to dispel negative thoughts as a result of that exercise that I did. And it was amazing. It was truly, it was one of the most powerful things I've ever done. And it came to me through this book that just showed up at the library. It was like one of those, you know, weird, like directions from the heavens things that happens. And yeah, it's really neat to do that, the 7-day mental diet. And, you know, basically I just didn't watch any TV, and I did try to limit my contact with people who were more difficult during that time, but it kind of gave my brain a rest from its normal, what has become its normal pontification on the problems.
Mm-hmm.
And it was cool. I mean, and so yeah, it started sort of open my mind to this journey of trying to like think positively, but not in that new age way. Think positively while knowing, like, like you know what's going on, but you also have to be like, the thing about knowing what's going on is you can become addicted to more and more negative information and piling it up and piling it up and piling it up. And so at some point I've noticed, like, I just have to quit and just you know, you know, I know all the stuff, the crazy crap that's going on, having, you know, listened to all of Mark Passio's work. It's pretty impossible not to know pretty much everything. And now I just try to find solutions, be solutions oriented about it.
For sure.
When I was talking to somebody today who was super negative. Oh my God, this guy was so negative. And I just was praying while I was talking to him, because it was so hard to listen to him. He was so pessimistic. It was like, ugh, I just don't want to be around this guy. And but I just was like, well, so I just tried to be positive, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, but that's, you got to be super careful about that. I mean, that's my point, is like, I have to be super careful about my own negativity. I mean, or just wanting to be the bearer of bad news. Like, that's kind of a fun person to be, right? I know I enjoy it, but it's not very productive. So gotta give that up, give up those egoic pleasures of being the bearer of bad news. I don't know. That's just my.
Well, we'll get into this in a later on. It might be a while, but I'll bring it up here anyways. And that's just like manifesting, and like the manifesting chart, which basically shows like how starting in a place of fear, you're always going to end up with chaos at the end of the manifestation. Whereas if you start in a place of love, then that's where you're going to end up with order at the end. And so it's interesting how that works. And there's also like kind of like, if since we're talking about mentalism and manifesting with our mind and stuff like that, there's actually and since last week we were talking about the trivium, and that's a 3-step process. Well, manifesting, there's a 3 forces basically that come into play when you're trying to manifest something. And the 3 forces are, there's the affirming force, where you're having an affirmation about something. And then there's a denying force, which this is actually the rest of the mental connections or the connected consciousness, if you were, is denying your affirmation, it's kind of, in some ways, it's kind of like just testing it. It's like, is this good for only you, or is this going to help benefit others too? Or, and then the last fourth is the reconciling. And so, you know, that it's a three things. All three of those things have to happen. You have to have the affirming, the denying, and the reconciling in order for something to manifest. If you don't have, if you're missing any of those aspects, there won't be any new arising.
Well, I'll definitely take that into consideration when I make sigils.
And so, like and I've heard this kind of talked about as, or this denying force kind of talked about as, referred to as reality inertia, which is kind of like the inertia of what realities, the direction reality is going in currently. It has like a momentum and an inertia to it. And so if you're trying to affirm something, or manifest something, that's you're stepping into that denying force or that inertia, like a creek. Like if you need to walk across a river that's flowing, if it's too deep, the river's just going to sweep you away, and even if you're a powerful swimmer, yeah, you'll make it to the other side of the creek, but you might be a mile downstream from where you're actually trying to cross. And so that is kind of like the reality itself has its inertia. And if you're trying to affirm something that's just way too against the grain, it's gonna be, the denying force is going to be a lot stronger. So when things reconcile, your manifestation may not actually pop up, or the denying force might be so strong that there isn't room for reconciling.
There isn't what?
Isn't room for the reconciling to take place?
That's interesting. That's very interesting because because right now in the community, we just introduced consensus again, and people, they don't like it at all because it requires so much patience. But yesterday when we brought it up, there was another guy who agreed about it. And that's the first time that's ever happened, that I've been in a situation with people where I brought it up and there was another person that knew about it and knew its benefits. So what that tells me is that, that the positive forces are having an effect on the entropy. I've had that happen too,
Yeah.
many times, where I've been swept away and ended up a mile downstream, you know what I mean?
Right.
But you have to keep on your course. You have to use that just to get stronger, and it's very frustrating, but it's just part of it, And so like last night I was blown away. This guy, like I brought up consensus. We're studying the PMAs, right? But we're a group
Yeah.
now. We're starting to become a group, and so it's becoming obvious that we're going to need to use some kind of decision-making process at some point. So it came up, like I just brought up consensus, right? Consensus
Right.
decision-making, and this one person was like, "Oh no!" But then this other guy was like, "Oh yes, consensus. It's the only way, because if you don't use consensus, there's going to be a crack in the vessel that you're making, and it will eventually be destroyed." And I was just like, oh my God,
Yep.
thank God, because it's usually just me. I bring it up and people just stare at me, with a glassy eyed look on their face. And then they never talk about it again. But last night there was a guy there that knew about it. And he's actually the guy we're at his place. We're doing we're doing the PMA study group at his
Oh, yeah.
place. So it's like, wow.
You're affirming something by bringing up that topic, which is not the first time you've brought it up. You just stated, and I've heard you talk about bringing it up in other group situations that you've been involved with as well. And so now that so the universe has been kind of denying that a little bit for you, but you keep trying to affirm it. Well, it's starting to seem like it might be starting to reconcile a little bit, because now you have other people, maybe it's only one person for now, but agreeing with, oh yeah, we need to do this.
Right. And that's really amazing. Like if I was like not connected to, reality, I would just think that was coincidence, and I wouldn't see the power of, continuing to attempt to manifest this. You know what I mean? That everything's connected, So it was a total blessing. Huh?
And it's about consent. It's funny you bring that up, because the reconciling is actually the consent, basically, of the other players in the game, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Right. And I bet you the
Chris.
basis of that word consensus has to do with consent.
Oh, hey, how you doing, Chris? Welcome.
Hey, Chris.
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Hey, dude. How you doing?
We're talking about mentalism tonight.
Mentalism?
Yeah, mentalism. And we were just talking about consent and...
Well, actually, that was
some different things.
Consensus.
Consensus.
Yeah, it just came up about consensus, but we'll talk about it later.
Well, it's like a lot of,
Hi.
If everyone gives, their content with it, then you have a consensus of all the...
Oh, that's so interesting. Wow, I didn't even see that. That's really cool. So yeah, it's so interesting. I'm gonna have to take some time and think about that for a little bit. So yeah, we're talking about mentalism, which you guys are all familiar with. And I was just sharing some experiences that I've been having in the community.
Yeah, we were talking about also like a 3-step process for manifestation, and there's 3 forces. There's you start with the affirmation force, and then there's a denying force, or I also call that the reality inertia, and then there's a reconciling. And there has to be, all 3 of those things have to happen in order for a new or rising to happen. And we were kind of just dissecting that a little more, just to catch you guys up to where we're at, what we've been talking about.
Yeah, say those 3 things again.
An affirming force, a denying force, and then a reconciling force.
Oh, that's a lot like what's his name? The philosopher Hegel in his synthesis, anti-synthesis, and then very similar, right?
Is that the dude that wrote the
Hegelian
book
dialectic.
about habits?
No, Hegel, he's like one of the famous philosophers, and he's the one that they used his philosophy to come up with that whole Hegelian dialectic. It's all based on his work, that there's like, you come up with a thesis, and then there's an antithesis, and then the solution is a synthesis. And he basically describes everything as going through that process. And then the manipulation of that process to mind control people would be, you set out the thesis and the antithesis, I can't say that, and
Antithesis.
a pre-proposed solution, right? So you control the whole dialectic. But the natural dialectic should be the process we go through of discerning anything, where you present the information against the thing, and then you synthesize what makes sense out of that process, right?
Right.
Cool. So what are you guys doing? Are you in the garage there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gonna do some art?
I got a pin set last weekend.
Woohoo! Nice.
Show and tell.
We got a pad with actual blank paper.
Awesome.
And I got this.
What is that?
Oh,
Oh my goodness. Whoa, that's a French curve. I haven't seen one of those for many years.
Jake,
Oh yeah, those are fun.
Yeah.
I didn't know it had
That's
a.
how, what?
I didn't know it had a name.
Oh yeah, it's for graphic design. The old days when people used pens instead of the computer for graphic design.
Yeah, I thought it'd be good for us because we're kind of novice artists.
I think in the computer software you can actually access the French curves to use for line work and stuff.
Right. Yeah,
If you
everything
wanna
in the
nerd
computer,
out
in
and-
Illustrator and Photoshop is based on old graphic design and the
Tools
darkroom.
like that, yeah.
Got my pencil and my pencil sharpener.
All set, dude.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool.
Well, it's interesting. There's a lot of 3-step
got-
processes like that.
Yeah, the 3. Well, I mean, look, I'm going to just share with you guys what I'm doing here. Like I'm doing this sculpture of a thistle, and there's a sigil here that says I have the inalienable right to self-defense. And what I really love about when I see a thistle is if I can see a thistle that has all 3 stages of itself on the plant. And that's what and so yeah, the 3. So the 3 definitely is a natural law, sacred geometry thing here on Earth, obviously, that we see played out over and over.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where we talked about that quite a bit last week. We were talking about trivium.
Well, you guys were here for that, right?
We missed last week.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Mhm.
did?
Yeah.
I must be stoned or something. I must be.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Were you guys camping or something?
We got to go to this really cool like sound healing thing.
Oh,
It was
cool.
pretty intense.
Huh?
It was
Pretty
pretty
neat.
intense. It was like this woman who has lived through all this crazy stuff. She had some kind of abuse as a child, and then someone like got traded into like some soldier owned her for a while, and then she got like
What?
shot in the head. She was in some weird country, and she had like a near-death experience, and she woke up, and this, I think it was an African woman, was wailing, like crying at first, and then it turned into singing. And like the way she experienced it was this woman sang her back to life, and she
Wow.
came back with this like gift of empathy and this like thing where she feels like she needs to sing to people to help heal them. So
Wow.
she does these sound healing sessions, and she sings to you. And she had a guy playing the djembe.
Uh-huh.
It was pretty crazy. It was very
That
Wow.
sounds pretty
you know,
neat.
one at a time.
Trippy. So was it live or was it on the internet?
It was live.
Oh, really? Right there in California somewhere?
Yeah, right up here by Shasta.
Wow, man, that's neat.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That's pretty cool.
But I did go camping over the weekend.
Right.
Well, yeah, if you're into that Jonathan Stewart Reed stuff, he's like, didn't he just come out with something about like
That's our
blood
guy.
cells?
We produced him on our show, honey.
Yeah, like he did like the red blood cells, or like if you play music to blood, then like it regenerates the blood cells.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What, Chris, were you there then? I don't think so. Maybe you weren't there.
No,
The
it was part of
vibrational
it.
medicine thing.
I missed it.
Yeah,
I
they
need
did
to check
this like experiment where they took like donor blood, and they'd take a sample of donor blood, and they'd dilute it a little bit, and then they put the sample in a blood cell counter, and then they would take that after they counted the blood cells. They'd take that sample and they'd play they'd play music to it for like about 20 minutes or more, and then they'd put the sample back in the blood cell counter, and there would be like a large amount more blood cells than there were, healthy blood cells than there were before they played the music to the blood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's doesn't matter what music you play. They said actually the music that probably works the least is classical music, and they attribute that because it doesn't have that like kind of 4/4 beat, you know, like most pop music has.
Wow.
And I guess, and they're saying that the beat, that driving beat, is important because it's kind of like the heart, the beat of like the heart, like boom boom. And so
metal, man. No, I'm
Mhm.
kidding.
or I don't know. I just it they said it really didn't matter that much. The differences weren't that big. They just
Really,
they saw the biggest difference when they used classical music.
Oh, the biggest difference for the positive
Yes.
or not?
Well, the classical music worked though the worst, but it still
Oh.
worked pretty good.
That's amazing. Usually you'd think it would be classical that would be.
Well, because I've heard that in the other studies were like where they put the music on the plants and stuff, and they put it in the water, and there it was like wasn't it the Miyamoto guy or whatever, where the water, if you put like heavy metal music, it would look like similar to like hate or chaos pictures, whereas when you would put the classical music, it would be more like crystals and words like truth and love, you know. That's what I
Right. And there, it's like that's different, you know, and that might still be a factor there too, you know, with more experimentation. They might find that, like, oh, yeah, even though it's regenerating the blood cells, they're not as healthy as if you play this other type of music or whatever.
Yeah.
Or if you just take the longer, you know, bigger picture of approach and you play the classical music for a longer amount of time, you actually get like a stronger, healthy cell versus just regenerating a cell that may not be healthy.
That's really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting. Cymatic therapy could be a thing that, and that lady that you guys went and saw is already doing it. Just
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, there was I don't know if he told you, there was a didge, guy playing the didge and then drumming. It was all really powerful.
that's so cool. I bet.
well,
Was
you
there a
always
lot of
feel
people there?
exhilarated when you hear live music, and that's the other thing too. They said that they did an experiment where they were playing live music versus just playing like a recorded, like, you know, CD or whatever back to the blood, where actually live music was way more effective than just playing just a recording, which is interesting to note too.
But kind of not that surprising either.
No,
No.
not surprising. Nope, not surprising at all. It's really, that's part of the plan, I guess, to get everything shut down.
I mean, think about how different it is when you see like a band live. You know, it is a totally different experience.
Oh yeah, you might get on like their Spotify or whatever, and you're like, so we're actually going and seeing these guys tonight. All right. But then you get there and you have an amazing time. You're like, oh, well, actually, those guys are actually pretty rad.
Yeah, no.
It's different, yeah. A lot more real. And then you'll like an album for years. Way different if you saw it.
Oh yeah. Yep. I don't know if my live music days are going to get reignited or not. We'll see.
And that sound thing could be attached to like mentalism as far as like sound. They measure brain waves, which sound is measured in waves, and so there's a lot to be said about that sound and that. waveform.
Which shifts the state of your mind, right? So I think of mentalism as including emotional
Oh
thought,
yeah.
you know, anything that shifts the mental state. So sound and vibration would do that.
Yeah, like you could
Right.
be having like a really crappy day, and then you turn on a certain song, and then all of a sudden you're all blissed out again.
Yeah.
And those are two completely different mental states, you know, being frustrated or in anxiety versus
Mhm.
being blissed out in happiness.
And it also points out to the interaction of the Hermetic principles. So they don't really stand alone. They work in harmony or, together.
They do. That's like the axiom where you can use principles against principles or principles with principles. Yeah, that's important. And that's why it's so messed up that the TV is such a powerful tool to help manifest stuff, because people listen to TV and they might believe it, right?
Yeah.
And so that once you have that consensus of enough people, that's when the manifesting starts happening.
Right.
Ridiculousness.
But I mean, I think, the dark being is so much less powerful than the light,
For sure.
I mean, it's pretty amazing to me. I can feel like a lot going on now, finally, with the light.
Well, that's the thing, is like the dark, they need something like the TV to help them even scratch the surface of the light.
You go somewhere like where we went this weekend and you realize how insignificant a lot of that stuff that's going on really is. And nature's just so powerful and huge and immense and indestructible that it really doesn't give a shit about all this stuff, It's really
sure.
us humans that need to figure out, how to get along with each other, how to work together. To figure that out, we could create a pretty awesome place here.
Right. No, that's exactly right. In fact, that's what we were kind of talking about when you guys came in. Like I was telling people, I started this PMA study group a couple weeks ago, and yesterday, just inadvertently, I brought up using formal consensus because I don't know, it came up. Just not that we have to use it right now, because right now I'm like the teacher or whatever, but down the road when people start taking leadership positions. And it was amazing because I've brought that up now like so many times, and people have just like shot it down immediately because it requires quite a bit of patience, and people generally don't want to do it if they can avoid it. And but last night, this guy, like I brought it up, and this guy the guy whose place it is that we're using, he's like, oh yeah, formal consensus is the only way to do shit. And it was great. I was like, wow, this is so fantastic. Finally, somebody is, after years, I've been bringing this shit up for years. I'm telling you, like, and people just ignore me, stare at me like deer in the headlights, and it never goes anywhere. And, but last night, finally, somebody actually stood up for it. Huh?
What is the group that you're talking about?
Oh, I started a private membership association study group.
Ooh.
Because there's a lot of people in Colorado who have purchased private membership association paperwork, and they don't really know what to do with it, or it's faulty, they're finding out now, or whatever. And so, or they can't afford it, and so they're trying to write their own paperwork. And so I happen to have some knowledge, not all, but some knowledge about it. And so I started a study group about it.
Neat.
And it involves like studying the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence and other other things like that, which mostly people just don't haven't wanted to invest the time and focus necessary to do that, but it's starting to, people are starting to become willing to do that because they can see why they need to or whatever.
That's good.
So it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm an anarchist at heart, but I do feel that knowing this stuff would be helpful just to create that bridge.
Yeah, it's a step along the way that to anarchy
Yeah.
and understanding freedom and
I mean,
rights.
I think that our forefathers had an unfortunate, they didn't have all the information or whatever. So, but we still have to work with that stuff because that's our bridge back to our inalienable rights,
Mhm.
And so
You were talking about formal consensus. I don't necessarily know that term, but I sure feel empathy for, I've been beating the drum of consensus as a way to replace voting, because voting doesn't make any sense. And consensus makes all kinds of sense. And I thought a lot about how to make consensus work. And, in a group, I'm sure people have thought this out, and maybe that's what you're talking about, but there's going to be exceptions. And in a group of 10 people, if one person doesn't want to do something, that doesn't mean there isn't a way to come up with a consensus decision. And I thought a lot about ways to do that, and it's very possible. And I think it's the way to move forward with small groups that are intentional based, is you have a consensus based system.
well, you might check it into it. It was created by this guy, C.T. Butler, in the late 60s because he created the Food Not Bombs movement.
Okay.
And so he basically worked it out how to do formal consensus in a group, and how to get, but it's, the thing is it requires patience, and sometimes it takes a few days to get the consensus. So people these days just want to go, they want a leader to just make their decision and boom, get on with it, but they don't realize that the value is in the consensus process.
Like
What?
jury.
The system they think is so efficient, it isn't fast at all. It takes forever. It's really slow moving. And you know what I mean? Like for politicians to make decisions and all that, right?
Oh, well, no, I mean, just like people in a group, they just want to make it, they just want
Oh,
to
I
come up with a decision, boom, and make it, and don't not hear everyone's voice, or some people who feel intimidated by the stronger people, they just want to not have a voice, or
Yeah.
basically they want to believe in a benevolent dictator or whatever,
Yeah.
They're still looking at things from the perspective of the problem we're trying to get out of. We're in that kind of system right now, and it's not working.
Right,
And,
but they don't think
but
that,
they're still thinking. They're still thinking in that same mindset of that broken system. Whereas you're bringing up consensus, and they're just having cognitive dissonance towards it, because it's so foreign to the
exactly,
the what they're used to. And so when it's foreign to what they're used to, even though what's foreign might actually be the solution to the problem that they're having, which is
right,
their freedom's getting taken away. And so
yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean,
it's like
amazing.
using we're not going to get ourselves out of the problem using the same thinking that got us into the problem to begin with.
Right, but a lot of times people think that it's not thinking that's the problem. It's the people, the people who are doing the actions. They personalize it or whatever, and oh, my way, my ideas are going to be better, and I can just slam them home the same way that the tyrannists are slamming them home. But the thing is, it's not what we do, but how we do it. And they don't, people have to come into that realization of that, and that patience is a virtue that we have to develop, in order to have everyone's voice be heard.
Also about respect, I think.
Right. Respect, for sure. Yep.
Well, the thing is, you only gain respect and trust from good communication, and that only happens, really, it can only happen in small groups and in person, and you can't rely on people that you don't know or haven't met to make decisions about things in an area where you live, you know? So that all works better on a person-to-person basis in small groups, you know?
Sure.
But it doesn't work, you know, with 30 people. It works with like 10 people, you know?
Uh-huh.
There is a maximum number that you're going to be able to have a sane consensus with.
So then how would a community that's larger than that, make decisions that affect everybody?
Break itself into smaller circles.
Well, I don't know. Chris, there is actually a number that they have come up with, which is 150.
Oh, really?
Supposedly you can do consensus with 150 people. It might be harder in the beginning while you're learning it, but
I think it would
I mean,
be
you can look into all that. I tend to agree. It's easier to do consensus with like 10 people, like you said, but if you have a community, you can, if it's under 150, that's actually the number.
Is the book the best reference for that, the one you mentioned, the changing the minds? What did you call it?
Oh,
C.T. Butler?
Could not
oh, I don't know if he talks about the number of people. I mean, that book is called on conflict and consensus. I actually could send you the PDF if you're interested.
I'm interested.
It is, I'm not sure if he mentions that number. I think that number has been tossed around amongst a few different groups, you know, because so the idea being maybe that we all have tribes, like tribes of people that don't exceed 150 or so, right? And they are maybe structured as private membership associations because all of the governments are structured as private membership associations. And so they're not going to get rid of that because that's how they've been doing it. You know, they're not going to fight you on your private membership association too hard unless you're, you know, well, I mean, the thing is they are doing acts of substantive evil, but they might not be able to get away with that much longer if other people have private membership associations as well. You know what I'm saying?
Are the private membership associations also in that book?
No, private membership associations are just being talked about a lot in the freedom community here. It's been being discussed. And there's only a few people that claim to know how to write the paperwork for that. And so right now they are like an old boys club where they're hiding the information so that you have to pay like $2,000 to get the information. And there's enough of us now that we're trying to figure it out. And I have now got like 3 or 4 different sets of paperwork from various places, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of all of it so that I can set it out there for free for people.
That's great. Yeah, you know, it's so funny.
Bullshit.
We're
Huh?
talking about this. It seems to be on all our minds. You know, Chris has got a presentation that he's formulating that probably is related to this. I have one in the process where consensus was one of the titles of my slides, and hearing you talk about it, it's very synchronistic. Yeah.
Right. So in a private membership association or a cooperative, you would use consensus to find the decision of the group. You know, that's been going. So we haven't had access to the knowledge of private membership associations until recently, but before that, we've had plenty of cooperatives. I mean, you guys out there in California have tons of worker cooperatives.
Yeah.
And cooperatives and collectives and stuff. And even the Occupy movement attempted to use formal consensus. That's how they, you know, made decisions before they were infiltrated. The thing about using formal consensus is that if you're in a group like that and you have the infiltration of the CIA or some other agency, those people will not be able to tolerate formal consensus because it takes too long and they just can't handle it. So it's a great way to get rid of infiltrators.
Good.
You know, but again, it does require respect. What you're talking about, respect. patience. I mean, that's actually on in the 3rd chapter of the formal consensus book. They have like a list of all the principles everyone would have to agree to. And respect is the second one. Trust is the first one, but trust gets built by respect. And then they use the term nonviolence, which I'm not crazy about, but there really isn't another way to describe it in the English language at the moment. Where you can't interrupt people, and you can't use all these different tactics in a discussion to get your way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's nonviolent. So you can't blame, you can't yell, you can't raise your voice, you can't interrupt, because and then there's the facilitator. There's a facilitator who's not participating in the process except by being a facilitator, and that person has the balls to be able to stand up to people if they are acting out. And if somebody's acting out, you basically tell them, hey, if you can't like get along, you're gonna have to come back next time, or you're gonna have to wait out this issue because you're obviously too heated or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so, but everybody has to agree on that in the beginning of a group's togetherness time, because if people, you got to catch people when they're still agreeable and desperate for the connection and everything, so that they'll agree to that. Because once they get to where they're comfortable, then they're not going to agree to these kinds of ideas, because they know it's like an ego deflating thing, and people, they're not going to agree to that unless they're desperate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting, I think. But I think it's pretty amazing that you've been thinking about this and coming up with ways to do it, Chris.
Yeah, I kind of see it as circles that overlap. And what has occurred to me, like a hub of a wheel, as a wheel turns, the different leg that's touching the ground is the support on it. So in the same way, if positions and roles in a group shift like a wheel, and when it's your turn, you go to the center of the hub, basically. So there's a wheel within a wheel, and the smaller wheel can help turn these decisions and make decisions. But everybody at every point in the wheel has a say. And when you combine two wheels of different communities together, there's going to be an interaction on the outer rungs and on the inner rungs, different ways to handle it. And I've thought a lot about it. It'd be pretty easy. It's like almost like when your turn comes up for jury duty, it's your turn to go meet with the other group. And you don't represent your group, you represent the opportunity to communicate and build trust with that group. And so there's a process of like a proxy. I don't know what the word proxy means, but
It means you're putting someone else to represent you.
like that's not what we're trying to do. But you can make like a vote of confidence, let's say. You know what I mean? Or like a vote of.
Well, in consensus, you don't vote. You just come to consensus.
But I mean, like, there still could be a process of disagreeing and saying, I disagree with the overall decision that's being made. However, I'm going to use and there's a term you could use, and say, I'm going to back out of this choice because I want to save it for when I need it. And I'm willing to let everybody choose on this one so we can have a consensus, even though I disagree.
Well, but then there wouldn't be true consensus. That's the thing.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. It doesn't mean there can't be an exception to where you understand, the whole group understands that we need consensus. And there's certain times where we're not all going to agree on things. But there's a way to table your own position long enough
or be neutral
for situations to change, or to make sort of like a small sacrifice.
No, but that's
some other way.
I think you ought to look into this a little bit more, because the problem is that if you start implementing that, the group ends up not having strength, because everybody does have to talk it out until everyone agrees. Otherwise, you'll end up with what we've got right now in the end, because they'll just always opt out of taking the time to talk and resolve everybody's issues until there is actual consensus, and that's why nobody wants to really do it. But there is a way you can actually take that time to get to where people all agree. And then your vessel's going to be strong.
That makes sense to me. So does someone have the option of being neutral on an issue and just like not having an opinion that they need to push?
Yeah, I mean, then you're just in consensus though, then you're fine with it, you know? You just, yeah. I mean, because it's all for the greater good of that particular, I mean, it's not communist, you know, it's not a communist thing. It's like for the greater good of that particular group. So if you you don't see a problem with it, then you just you'd be in consensus with others, you know? It just does it takes a while, and people can get like, oh my God, this is never going to end and we're never going to do anything. And in our impatient society that we're in, it's very difficult. And I think they've dumbed us down partially so that we feel like we can't ever come to consensus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that we don't take the time to actually.
Well, our lifestyles have been so fast, like we've been kind of pushed into this super fast go, go, go. So there's very little time for that. And everybody's got this hurry mentality, it seems like.
Right. Yep. For sure. Definitely. Yep. Yeah. It's interesting because, I mean, just think, all this was invented, like people worked this stuff out before the internet came into being, you know?
It seems to me a big part of changing our societies to be in alignment with natural law is going to be slowing down the pace of our lives and creating more balance in our lives. We cannot work with this 40-hour work week and the mentality we're in, you know.
Right. No, I mean, like the way nature works. I mean, just think, like January is still winter, but that's when the seeds they're like doing their thing under the ground. Yeah. And it takes literally 3 months, February, March, April, you know, 4 months for the seeds to get to where they pop out. But we think like, oh, they just popped out in April, but the whole time they were like working on it, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, getting back to natural cycles instead of our.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's part of like, go ahead.
In some ways, I feel like the pace of the rat race is almost like tied to like the inflation. Like it's like the less valuable our money becomes, the faster the rat race becomes.
Oh yeah, probably, because, you know, sure, the faster it goes, the less you can pay attention to it and see how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
Just like a little observation, sorry to interrupt.
No.
It's useful.
Yeah, no, it was pretty interesting last night because, I mean, I had these people, these young people there, and I was saying, you know, actually I played Chris Ann Hall, and she was talking about the importance of the reading and studying the Declaration of Independence. And at first people were like, oh no. And then they came around, and these were like young people in their 20s and 30s, which was pretty amazing, I thought, because, you know, at first they were like, no, I want to let other people do it for me. And I'm like, that's the whole problem. Like with this PMA thing, we're relying on people to do the studying for us. And they're charging us like a ridiculous amount of money. And it's because we're ignorant that we, quote unquote, have to pay it. You know, it's because we're ignorant of the principles of how this country was founded and all that we, quote unquote, have to. So it's like, no, we have to do it ourselves. We actually have to do it ourselves, which again is going to require time, which is going to mean you're going to have to slow down because you can't have 10 million things to do in one day if you have to also read the terms and conditions of every app you're going to install on your phone. You know what I mean? This is like right back to that terms, and you know how we all just click yes or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's got to change. That's got to stop. And so our whole lifestyle is going to have to slow down so that we can accommodate us reading that stuff. You
Well, the
know?
difference, when we download an app and we feel like if we want the service, then we have to hit yes, and what we're trying to create is we don't have to say yes. We don't have to accept something given to us from the outside. We can create what we want, it's a different thing.
Right. But we still have to take the time to read and learn. Like we can't just snap our fingers. I mean, because Earth, nature requires that you take time to learn stuff. You can't just, download it into your brain.
Well, it's also like you were saying earlier, paying attention, right?
Oh, yeah,
So you like pay attention. So
That shit's expensive.
yeah. Your attention is expensive, and like,
yeah,
it's almost like if you're not paying attention, then you're
Undercharging
you're like losing out because you're missing out on the payoff. You're not you at that point, you're not participating, if you're not paying attention, then you're not like really participating. And then if you're not participating, then you're just gonna cease to exist.
Right.
Well, right, like that kind of goes back to the double slit experiment, because if you're not paying attention, then you're not changing the thing as a result of your presence with it. So therefore you're not, how could you use it then if you're not really, you know what I mean? It's basically becoming a lifeless action.
Yeah,
which is what they're trying to do. That's what they're trying to do, is make us into robots, right? I mean, the robotic car thing is a perfect example of that craziness.
Yeah, it's like a mindless action, right? We don't need to use our minds.
Right, but see, for some reason, that seems to be the commodity, is to use your mind less and less, but then you just get bored and end up doing really sick things with your mind,
Yeah, scrolling on Facebook and Instagram. It's like the instant, it basically creates like an addictive society, getting thrilled and dopamine boosts from mindless activities, right?
Yep. But you're consuming.
It almost reminds me of this quote too, like that I like. It's called procrastination is the natural assassin of opportunity. And so if you're not paying attention, you're assassinating like opportunity after opportunity after opportunity that's presented in front of you. If you are paying attention, then you might actually recognize one of these opportunities and take advantage of its fruits.
It's like paying attention to nature, right? Gives us the wisdom, the knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah, I had the great good fortune today of going to a farm and shoveling compost, and it was like the most relaxing, and my brain really felt so grateful to be able to be out there in nature and participate with nature. I just felt so much better. I mean, I didn't even know I didn't feel good, right? But then when I was done, I was just like, oh, this was so good.
Yeah, just being in nature, working our body a little.
It's amazing.
Well, last week we were talking about the trivium, and I decided to paint something from nature that represents that trivium. I'll go grab that painting real fast to show you guys.
Oh yeah, the seeds painting. I bet.
So I painted this,
Oh, nice.
and it's just like a hand, and it's dropping seeds into the ground. And then you got the processing, which is the, the watering of the plant, the sun hitting the plant, the air, and the
Strawberry.
earth. So you have the quadrivium in there: earth, air, fire, water, that are
Oh, yeah.
essential. And then you have like the fruits, that's the outcome, the strawberry plant.
Nice.
So, but that's looking at nature, and you can understand that 3-step, process of the trivium through how nature itself operates.
Yeah.
I mean, some people might see that are less informed and be like, oh, what's this? It's just showing me how a plant grows. Well, it's
Yeah,
a
it's
lot
pretty
deeper
amazing.
than that.
But again, that was back when people we were using nature as how to do things, and that was when we were more effective than we are now. Now we are just.
What's interesting too, because like you think about like the computer and what the computer does, and really the computer is basically just a fractal of the human mind, and how humans are like problem solving creatures in a lot of ways, and that are programmable. And like that's basically what a computer does. It's just a problem solving device that's programmable.
Right. Created by humans.
Yeah, created by humans.
Or somebody.
So
I'm not sure that it was originally created by humans, but
it's almost interesting that it's kind of almost like a fractal of a human in a sense.
Yeah.
Well, it's like an egregore, right? Don't you think? I mean, I mean, back to mentalism, it's like we basically created like a Frankenstein when we created a golem or something like a computer.
Yeah.
Right. It's almost like, you have the universe is mental, and we have our minds, which are mental, and then we fractalized down and made a computer, which is kind of like a version of mentalism as well.
Right. But the thing is that we get to something about that is not correct, maybe because we are trying to give that golem or that Frankenstein more.
Maybe
We're
because
trying to stuff. Go ahead.
maybe because it's imbalanced to the intellect and not the emotion, like to reason. The way
Right.
it is programmed, it's not it doesn't have emotion, which is important, right? For wisdom, you have to have a balance.
Yeah, it's not balanced. It's not a balanced system.
Well, but I mean, I'm not sure that we were supposed to give up those things that the computer does to a computer. I think maybe we were supposed to keep doing it.
I think it's about, I mean, any piece of technology in itself isn't necessarily bad. It's about our knowledge about how to use it, and most people are ignorant of it. We're knowledgeable, then I don't think we're really giving, we're enhancing. It's like using a stick to reach something up in a tree,
Right. I mean, I guess the thing is maybe we've just lost our way of why we need things like this. Where are we headed that we needed that in the first place? Like what did we need this for?
Yeah, good question.
Well, most people aren't using their smartphone to like calculate things and do like look up answers to solutions to problems. Most of the people are just using their smartphone to watch their Netflix while they're waiting in line or waiting for their kids to finish their gymnastics lesson.
Maybe, I don't know.
Or they're using that as a shopping tool so they can shop for stuff versus, you know, maybe like using it as a tool to, you know, do a
But I mean,
podcast. Like, oh, I have
why
a
would we
camera on my
need?
phone. I can do a
Well,
podcast to try
why did
to.
we need this? Why did we need? Why? I mean, I mean, that's what I think is so interesting about it. It's like I'm not sure that we really needed the Industrial Revolution, did we? I mean, they thought we did, I guess, because they wanted to get control of
Oh.
us. But
Think about it this way, as the way we prioritize things, like the one option we do have as being humans is this thing of choice, this freedom to decide where to put our energy and our intention and our time. Somehow or another, we were influenced, I think. But even if it wasn't influence, it would be an urge, I suppose, to, you know, experiment in this way, where we experiment in the physical realm as if the mental psychic realm is lesser, or it exists less somehow, you know. So the focus of humanity is under the false belief or premise that the physical world, the physical realm, is the more real of the realms, which
right,
is false. But under that premise, everything seems backwards and upside down, because you're looking at, it's like you're looking at reality from inside of a fishbowl rather than outside in the ocean where you can see it's just a fishbowl.
How does that relate to the computer, the need for computer eyes?
Well, so there you can do anything in this realm, but we're thinking if the real world is more real, if we can see it happening on this computer, that's more real than
Oh,
what we could calculate in our mind, for instance.
right. Oh, I see
You know
what you're
what I mean?
saying.
So
It satisfies our
by
our
focusing
senses.
in this dense dimension, like in this intense way, we're creating these amazing things. They're just absolutely amazing, but they're kind of growing in a weird crooked direction, because it's like, it's not useful like that, because we're not keeping the whole
Well,
perspective.
it's being used to exploit people's ignorance, which is what it is. It creates the power dynamic differential or whatever. Yeah, the manipulation.
I think very abstractly, yeah.
Well,
yeah. I mean, I spent the day with this girl who's super psychic. Like she's, I'm psychic in certain ways, but she's like a animal intuitive, and she's also talented with crystals and stuff like that. And it's just really nice to spend time with somebody who understands those realms, because I basically usually am just by myself in that one, you know. And for her, those realms are more real than this physical realm, you know. So it's just really neat to spend time thinking that way, you know, that those realms are more real, and you can do more. You can do more on those realms than you can in the physical realm, because actually that is the causal realm, the spiritual realm.
right.
And so yeah, I mean, it was just refreshing to be around somebody who sees it that way.
Most people won't relate or be comfortable with that, right? I imagine.
Right. No, not around here anyway. I mean, I live in Colorado, so maybe more on the coasts, but I'm not sure anymore, really. Things are so different now than they used
But yeah,
to be.
that spiritual realm is almost like foundational to the physical realm. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
interesting, like this, for some reason, it reminds me of this, the fact that I guess they've been, you know, for a couple years now, they've been making these like sheep clones and stuff, but they're having a hard time getting them to live more than like a month.
Oh, wow.
And there's this one, or I think I was listening to like Greg Braden, and he was talking about that, and he was like, the reason they can't get them to live any longer is because they're missing a whole side of the equation, which is the unseen spiritual aspect of the being. They just got the nuts and bolts and so their science is like, well, all the stuff is here for this sheep to should be a healthy sheep that can live for years and years and years, but they're not recognizing that spiritual component, that unseen essence of the soul or the spirit, that's part of what makes a being a being.
They're atheists.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like they're scratching their heads like, why won't this work? Well, it's because you're missing the actual half of the equation there. You got all the physical stuff, but you don't have any of the non-physical stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't have the breath of life in it.
Yeah.
Weird. Sick craziness.
Although I do think that the deeper layers of the cult have very much already figured that out. I think a lot of the people in Hollywood and presidents are clones.
Or what?
They're clones. I think they're from test tubes. Personally.
Oh, the celebrities and some of the
Yeah.
the puppets that we see in the media.
What's his name? Elon Musk.
No, really? You think he's a clone?
The test tube.
Really?
Obama, I think he's a test tube.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I
Really?
think it's like genetic experiments.
Huh. What makes you say that?
Um.
Because they're not human?
Well,
No, they don't
they
seem
do have a
human.
certain look about them if you notice the difference in some of their faces.
Yeah.
And there's that video of Clinton when he's turned off. Have you ever seen that? He's about to go on
What?
something.
What?
Yeah.
When what?
He zoned out. He said,
It
Chris
looks
had
like
turned off.
it looks like he's a robot that's just turned off. He's completely zoned out. There's videos of more than one person like that, but I know there's a famous one of Clinton.
Hmm.
And then I tie it in this whole history that they have in all the sci-fi movies with different things where they're trying to put one consciousness into another body, like Frankenstein, right? The lightning, and then you zap the brain from one person into the other.
So maybe it's more of body snatching, where
Yeah,
they're
I
putting
think
consciousness in,
They've been
in a
doing
body.
that for a long time, and that's what creates these hellish beings that have all this consciousness but no soul.
I kind of lean
Keep body
towards
transferring.
body snatching more so than maybe test tube creation. But I mean, I guess they can clone
Both.
animals, but
They're combining these types of
Yeah.
technologies. They're doing. I think it's been going on for eons. But,
For eons?
professional one. I mean, maybe not eons, but generations, many generations. It's almost like creating AI intelligence at this point.
well, it could be what's created us in the beginning with some kind,
Have you ever seen Prometheus?
No.
They do a pretty good job in the Alien series at the end, kind of explaining that with this artificial android that outlives all of us and destroys us and our creators, basically.
Yeah, I've seen that movie.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. That's like the occult storyline of that movie.
Yeah. I don't know. That's my wild theory that I kind of like, but I only talk about it amongst friends and enlightened individuals.
Yeah, there's been some of those the Joe Biden anomalies kind of point to something like that going on as well.
I don't know. I mean, I think they're real. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I know the people you're talking about, but I mean, I think Biden is just I mean, they're just pedophile. They've just been made into sellouts so that they can be manipulated. But I thought they were probably real people. I mean, basically because Kathy O'Brien talks about and Kathy O'Brien and what's her name? Oh, come on, the other one. I can't remember her name right now. you know, they talk about those people having been involved in their childhoods and when they were sex slaves, you know. So
Right.
they probably were real people that sold their soul and, you know, got addicted to adrenochrome or whatever. I thought that was Clinton was one of those people.
Maybe
know.
it was like, maybe they went through like a ceremony too, where like there was actually some sort of soul transfer. So their actual soul was overwrote by the new soul that came in.
Yeah. Totally could be some weird combination of things like that.
Biden, I've
Like
seen.
that. What's that movie? Being John Malkovich, where the
Oh God, ghastly.
like you have to go through that door at the right time, or you'll get stuck in the like the character at the end of the movie. The character is like the character that comes obsessed with like going through the door and like learns how to puppeteer the like Malkovich guy or whatever. Like he ends up getting like trapped inside the child of like the two other girls that are in the movie. I don't know. It's interesting, but somehow
So that
like
was,
his soul gets trapped like inside like as like a viewer inside of another body. It's interesting, but
oh my God, yuck.
I've seen people post pictures of Biden, you know, when he's younger and currently, and then focus in on the earlobes. And they are claiming there has to be a stand-in, that it's not the same guy because one photo, the earlobes are attached to the,
Yeah,
and the other are not attached. So I don't know.
right. Like, so he's just he's dead now or something.
Well, I think all political leaders, like in most of history, have always tried to get body doubles or stand-ins. That's like really common. People don't suspect enough, you know, and there would be a huge amount of money to be gained and power if you knew how to make basically like clones, you know. And people have been working on that kind of thing for centuries.
Could be masks too.
You know, all kinds of combination of the things we're imagining. But we know that there's technology that's always a little ahead or a lot ahead of what we know about. It's about what they were drawing pictures of on the Egyptian pyramids and stuff. Sure looks a lot to me like Frankenstein body transfer. If you think about it, the cup of life and that whole thing, it's all about everlasting life. You get it in one body, but you can get it by switching your mind into.
Oh my God, Chris. Oh my God, ouchie.
Pretty sure
that's like what
Talk,
that.
speak up though. You're like muffled.
a lot of those stories tell that similar thing going down over and over and over.
Oh man.
Just like that being John Malkovich story, because this like there's a group of people, they all enter that door at a certain time, and then they get a live a new life in that new body that's born.
I don't know. I remember watching that movie and not getting it and thinking it was horrible and getting horrified and not watching it or something.
Well, it's pretty creepy, but like, yeah. It's like the whole premise is like, hey, this is a way that a loophole where we can live, you know, be immortal, essentially.
See, this to me is like, it's like negative. It's the black mirror of mentalism. Like, how can you, it's like it's too much intellectual, you know, and not enough heart where like, and
Yep.
so therefore it's probably the psychopaths that came up with all this shit.
That's why they lose their soul in the process.
Yeah, totally.
And their soul is
Kind of
being.
become godlike when you have all this knowledge and memories, but you don't have the soul to go along with it.
And then when they make people, they don't want them to have souls. They don't want them to have consciences.
They wouldn't be as useful that way, would they?
Yuck. So gross. It's just so disgusting to me. But I mean, I just can't imagine that. I don't know. I just don't think it's going to win, but in the end.
Well, no way.
It's like a house of cards.
They can sure create a lot of chaos.
Yes, it's creating a lot of chaos for sure. Plus, I mean, like you were talking about our origins, right? You were starting to talk about our origins. Were we created as a robot or
A hybrid, you know,
a hybrid?
or a stand-in, a walk-in, I don't know, some,
Slave species.
you know, there's some kind of genetic
Yeah, I
mode.
really like that idea that we were once animals and now we're human. And so we were once, and we had that alien. I mean, like for me, I have the Rh negative blood, which is the newest blood. And, you know, I tried to be vegan, but like I have these cravings for meat and stuff like that. And I feel like, you know, I probably have more alien DNA than, not enough, not as much as the royals or whatever, but more or something. And that's what makes me need animal protein or whatever, even though I don't have the teeth for it, right? And so I would go along with that personally, that idea that, and I look at my family history, you know, some of them are royals, some of them are, and some of them are from Eastern Europe and probably are related to the Khazarians. Unfortunately, I hate to say it,
I'm
but probably
O
are.
negative blood.
Huh?
I'm O negative blood.
Yeah, O negative. That's what I am.
Yeah.
So that's that's the newest blood. Like it's the.
I thought it was old. Like I thought it was I thought of it as very old, but how do you
Really?
say it's new?
I don't know. That's what I don't remember where I read that, because I was looking into it for a while there, because I was like, what is up with this? You know, because as it turns out, you know, it's the rarest blood.
Yeah.
It's the rarest blood type. But as it turns out, my partner is also O negative, and it's just there's something about it. I had read about it somewhere that it was the newest blood, and it's the most rare.
Well,
But I mean, I don't know.
it goes, there's a higher percentage of negative blood, Rh negative, in two areas. And now I'm forgetting what they're called, but one of them's Northern Africa, and it's an area where there's light bluer eyes. And
There's what?
there's a higher percentage, higher numbers of negative, Rh negative blood type in two different parts of the world. One of them is a place in Northern Africa where there tends to be dark-skinned people with lighter blue eyes.
Oh, wow. I didn't know about that.
And then there's also, I don't know if it's an island, but it's like near France. They also have a very, very old language that doesn't have the same origin as any other language. It's not a Romance language. And there's I don't know, some people kind of think it goes back to Atlantis or back to, I don't know what exactly. I'm trying to figure it out too.
Yeah, I'll
That's
have to look into it
interesting
again.
that you bring up language and an ancient language that's not in a Romance language. Because I was like, something like I was looking into was talking about the what is that? The Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was saying in that document, it basically says that like how they destroy the people or whatever is by making their language so they can't understand each other.
Yeah, they confounded their language. I've always thought about that. What does that mean?
And so like, but then like I've also like got into, there's some other researchers out there who are like, they're blaming the English language and the way it's structured for the separation and compartmentalization of everything, and how it's a very extremely separative language, and the fact that the language we use may be what is actually causing the conflict.
That is interesting, huh?
Some of the conflicts we're having.
Right?
And so then I was like relating that back to that thing in the Tower of Babel, and I'm like, oh my God, maybe it is the language itself that we speak that causes all the, compartmentalization and taking away of freedom. And I don't know. There's something to that, I think, though.
Well, maybe, because I don't know, maybe it has to do with how in other languages things are masculine and feminine in the language, and in English they're not. There's nothing like that in the language.
Huh.
Well, in some ways, because I was talking to this with my sister too, and she knows Spanish, and she's like, well, actually, in some of those Romance languages that separate the feminine and the masculine, that's actually even worse, because like then you're like some of the, like she was talking about, some of the derogatory terms a lot of time were like feminine based in some of those languages too. And so they're like using the whole feminine as a like, or not, no, they don't even, like in Spanish, they don't use, it's not even the feminine and the masculine, is that there's a way that you speak with like a royal person versus just a common person. Like there's like a formal way of speaking the language and an informal way of speaking it. And so like my sister learned how to speak Spanish in Costa Rica, and they decided as a people to only use I can't remember if it's the formal or the informal version, like when you address someone. And so then like she was talking in Spanish with someone else from a different, Mexico or someplace, and they're like, how come? And they were like confused. Why are you always addressing me in the formal version? We're friends. We shouldn't have to use the formal version anymore. And so she's like, oh, well, in course, Costa Rica, they only use that version because they think it's, derogatory when you're using the informal versus the formal, because you can talk down on someone by talking to them in the informal version of the language. That makes sense.
Wow. But English doesn't have any of that. It's just straight up one way, right?
It compartmentalizes things very like, so it separates things and compartmentalizes things. And like one of the people who I was listening to, who was talking about this language problem and how it might be what's causing a lot of the conflict that we're facing today. And he was comparing to like the Hopi Indian language, and how they were talking about the ocean, and like, whereas, we might point out a specific wave that we think is pretty and say, we like that wave. Whereas like the Hopis, they're not ever going to like really seclude one wave. They're just going to say the ocean waves and that it's beautiful. They're not going to be like, oh, that specific wave right there is the beautiful one.
Yeah, the language definitely.
Or like in English, you would say, that ocean has waves in it, whereas like the Hopi would just be the ocean waves.
Mm-hmm.
What were you going to say?
I was just kind of, I guess, agreeing like with the concept that our language is so directly connected to how we perceive and think. They're interconnected much more than we realize.
For sure. Definitely in how we think too.
Huh?
That's the other thing, that if you know it's someone who speaks more than one language, maybe ask them, what language do you think in? Because what my sister experienced too, when she immersed herself in that Spanish community and was only speaking in Spanish, she eventually started thinking in Spanish as well.
Yeah, probably dreaming and.
Yeah, and so
I have a lot of thoughts sometimes in what I call Martin's voice, Joanna.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I think in Martin sometimes.
No way. Are you serious? You must talk to him a lot.
He's not the first person this has happened to me with. A lot of people I've worked with over the years, my brain adopts their mannerisms or the little things they say. and it just starts doing it.
Wow.
And my thinking.
You gotta watch that, dude.
No, it's been something I've dealt with my whole life.
Be very conscious of it. Yeah.
It sounds like an empath thing. It's an
Yeah,
empath.
That's
thing.
what I was thinking too. Yeah.
But that's kind of funky.
If I
Well,
start someone
that's
with
why
like,
you have so much
accent.
empathy, for sure.
Well, but I mean, like, so you know that a friend of mine told me one time that her higher power speaks that's Siri's voice, and I'm like, turn off your phone.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of dangerous. Like to feel comforted by Siri, yeah, you need to turn off Siri, okay? But that's can you imagine how many people probably feel that way? Like that Siri's gonna tell me how to get there,
Wow.
you know?
see, they don't realize how much this realm is like everything's like tissue paper.
What's funny, because like, you know, if I hear like a author like on a podcast or something, and then I'll buy one of their books, when I'm reading the book, I'm reading it in their voice.
Uh-huh. Right.
If that makes sense. Like if I'm into like, oh, I saw Graham Hancock on some podcast, I'm like, oh, cool, I want to check out his book. And then I'm reading this book, but I'm reading it in his voice. And one time I got like, I think it was, I can't remember what book it was. It's like Technology of the Gods or something, who is by this author, Childress.
Yeah, I have that one.
And he, but I got it. It was like the book on tape, but it's not him reading it. And it irritated me because I'm used to his voice, but it wasn't his voice. No, I don't know. Or maybe it was a different book. I can't remember, but
That's weird. That's interesting though.
like it like the audio version actually irritated me because the author wasn't the one who read it. And I don't know. It may not actually have been that book. It might have been a different book.
I have a friend who I knew since I was like 13, who's from Brooklyn. So he had a Brooklyn accent, very solid Brooklyn boy, you know, with mannerisms and way of talking, all related, very Brooklyn. And he ended up moving to North Carolina. And I didn't see him for many years. And when I saw him again, all of a sudden he's talking like this Southern gentleman. It was
my God.
It was so bizarre. And it would make me upset. Every time I'd be like, stop that. Be yourself. Go back to being Brooklyn, you know? It was weird. And he would turn it on and off, kind of depending on who he's talking to and what his need was, what he was trying to accomplish.
Wow, that's so weird.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they've probably figured all this out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is just stuff that we don't even ever think about necessarily.
Right.
I have thought about that Tower of Babel thing quite a bit, and that's interesting that both the things that you guys brought up tonight are things that I've like questioned a lot, you know, because I remember reading that story in the Bible, and I've always thought about it and like relating it to modern times. I'm like, so how would you go about confounding the language or making it so people couldn't communicate when they could before? Because the story was they were all working together and they're building this colossal tower to the heavens, like to God. And, you know, number one, if God was all powerful, why would he give a crap about that? You know?
Right.
Well, that's because it was them. It was the God.
You know, some secret to be discovered, then you would have to stop these people, right? And how would you go about doing that? How would you screw up their language so they couldn't understand one another? You know?
Mm-hmm.
That thought process kind of like brought me a lot of interesting insights about.
I feel like there's a lot of misunderstanding because like I have like situations in my personal life where there's misunderstanding all the time. Like, you know, I was just talking, or my sister's been having a little bit of trouble with one of her relationships. And, you know, so I kind of got brought into a conversation, and I wasn't even participating in the conversation, but as I'm reading the text conversation thread in my phone, I can tell that the one person completely misunderstood the direct statement right before by the statement made directly after, because I'm like, I'm reading the one statement, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then I'm reading the next statement, I'm like, okay, this person is completely misunderstanding the other person.
Yeah.
And I could see that just from reading the conversation, and I'm hoping that the people having the conversation finally, recognize that there's some misunderstanding going on. But it's just like simple things are
That is
said.
exactly what I'm talking about. What are you texting?
Well, that has to do
One of the
with
ways-
emotions being added to the text. Like if you're not emotional, you can see the rational conversation, but if you're emotional, you can read that text any old way. And that's probably what you're talking about, Chris, is texting is a great way to confound the language hugely.
Exactly. Now you're talking.
Yeah. Well, and all the shortcuts of words, they don't even use full
Oh God.
words.
Texting, I hate texting. Like there's always misunderstanding, because I think it's part of that instant gratification thing where you're like, oh, like I need to, since I have to write this in a text message, I have to use as little words as possible.
Right. To abbreviate them,
and so, but then there's more room for misunderstanding. And then like sometimes I'm like, it would take me longer to like write out this text message than actually to call someone and articulate and do the back and forth, like,
Exactly.
that you need to do to actually get through the conversation. But some people are like, oh, well, it's more convenient to text because then I can respond at my leisure. And
I think it has to do with, fear at this point. I saw 3 children get off the bus in my trailer park today wearing a full fucking mask.
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, texting and wearing masks, it's all part of abbreviating communication and feeling safe like a pacifier, but not being fully present or alive.
Or confronting people. It's like people are getting less and less comfortable talking face to face or solving
yeah.
a problem or asking for something or saying no or breaking up or anything.
Well, yeah, it's like if I say this to your face, you might punch me in the face back, But if I text you this from 20 miles away, but at the time you drive over to my house to punch me, you might have cooled down enough to where you don't want to punch me anymore.
Right? Decide you're not worth it anymore. Too fun.
It's totally crazy. Yep, it's totally crazy. So yeah, that is really in this whole cell phone thing. Could have been the plan to confound the language.
Or part of the process. The continuing.
Yeah, I think it's an age old.
I don't know, maybe something about spoken word maybe is better, articulated is better for debate, I think, than, written word.
Written word was good, like when you think about it, when we have letters back and forth between some of the early American founder guys.
Yeah.
Maybe when you had to write something down with a quill and a candle and put together, ride a fucking horse for 4 hours, to
Yeah,
get
you were
means
more.
you really better think about what you're gonna say, right?
Well, I don't. Yeah, because they didn't have any alternative idea that you could just text it.
Well, yeah, you couldn't just get on the phone and have the conversation. It's like a conversation might take 6 months because you have to, hand deliver it by horse, each time something is brought up.
Well, so this goes back to paying attention again. This is about the quality of the attention that you're paying to that communication, because it takes so much time. Whereas now you can just, boom, you don't even have to think about it.
that causes a lot of problems, is not thinking about it.
Right, and
Well, it's
yeah,
that
because the
reactionary.
lack of the focus of the human being on the thing that they're doing is what it I think has to do with, because I think it's because we don't recognize how powerful we actually are and how powerful our attention actually is, so we squander it in these ways, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, that's why, hanging out with my woo-woo buddy makes me feel like I'm focusing more on the things that are really important.
Yeah.
When I hang out with her.
Although communicating with people is important, and learning how to communicate clearly, succinctly, in complex ways, and having emotional language, right? And learning about nonverbal communication and combination with verbal communication, and those skills are being lost.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. Like things like this whole spiritual realm in your communication. That is it's pretty impossible to carry that forward on text.
Yeah.
There's a lot else that's conveyed when you use your voice. There's tonality, timing. It's like music. There's a lot more going on.
Eye contact.
Mhm.
Yeah, it can be difficult. Like if you're texting like sarcasm to someone, they might not get it unless you add the right. You might have to add some emojis or something so they understand. Oh, he's being sarcastic.
That's why emojis exist,
Right. Emotion, right? Oh God, it's so gross. Symbols. Oh God. Yeah.
And so what that is that interesting in itself is like, a picture is more powerful than a word, right? I mean, it's like, that's why these symbols are so powerful. It's like the word is powerful, but the picture reinforces the word.
Well, and that is exactly what has been going on, with the logos and the constant bombardment of symbology upon us.
Maybe actually the symbols are actually truer than the words.
Right.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a direct experience with this too, actually.
And I think they also are going to hit the emotional level and the subconscious level. Well, I mean, verbal too, but the symbol talks to different parts of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like it has more aspects or something to it than a word.
It's really fast, like a million words in like a symbol, right? To speak out, to describe it, you could take hours,
Right.
Right. And that's the whole thing is once you feel something, then it's cemented into your psyche. So the faster that you can get that done, the more manipulatable you are.
And the less conscious that imprinting is, right?
Right.
So if you can control someone's subconscious, you can control them more easily.
Yeah, because a lot of your day-to-day activities are actually controlled by the subconscious.
Yeah.
So, wow, this is all about mentalism, though. All of this stuff, it shows that mentalism probably has 4 parts to it, like air, fire, water, and earth.
Or at least 3 for sure. Because I think I've heard this, too, like, I don't know if it was, maybe this was from the, Joe Dispenza stuff, where they talk about like more than one mind You know, like you have like the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, and then I forgot what the third one was.
Well, the ego, the id, the subconscious, and the super ego. It's four. There's four of them.
Conscious,
I'm not-
subconscious, unconscious as well.
This is that's Jungian
Mhm.
So,
originally.
so there's like layers, you know, like the subconscious is handling your walking while you're, you know, or the subconscious is handling the heartbeat while you're walking, you know, thinking about not running into something while you're walking with your conscious mind, right?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do the true care
Mhm.
thing at 7.
Oh, what do you guys? Oh, you're gonna do your show, huh?
I've been doing that meeting
The
Tuesdays.
True Care Network.
Yeah. Although I'm kind of thinking about taking a break.
What is that?
It's just been like a meeting of people. I'm just trying to like build a little network of trust and care, you know?
Oh, cool.
And but I don't know, it hasn't really manifested into quite what I had planned, and it's been cool. It's been really neat. But kind of feeling like I need a break from it.
Yeah, it's different than your podcast, the End Evil podcast.
It's more just conversational and exploring ideas and right?
Yeah, sharing like knowledge and helping people who may be in vulnerable situations in their life at the time, you know, being the ears that people might need, you
Yeah.
know,
Good.
sometimes, you know.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to describe it. I'll take a look at your guys' pictures before.
Okay, so mine. So I don't know if I showed you this, but this is the thistle. I told you the thistle. So now what I'm doing, I did like some thistle-y stuff on this one, but then I decided to cover all of the cardboard, and then I'll do thistle-y prickers on it.
What is the material of, is it cloth?
Clay?
Oh no, it's paper clay,
Oh,
which is made of paper pulp, glue, joint compound powder mixed with water and flour,
oh, wow.
and it makes a really hard air dry clay
Neat.
I'm gonna
that
take
I've been
that.
painting. Super fun.
Yeah,
Super
she's
fun.
been using recycled materials. Like she just basically shreds up her junk mail and makes it.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, but I never, there's always more junk mail than what I can possibly ever use. Which is depressing to me. It's depressing, but oh well, it's the way it is. I mean, if I was doing giant sculptures, maybe, but
Cool.
this is just for the truth show. So that the thistle is the inalienable
I like
self-defense.
that
There's
symbol.
Leslie's-
Great symbol.
Leslie's butterfly.
Hand over.
Oh, great!
pretty.
Look at that. That's so fantastic. Using the curve.
I just did it by hand.
Oh, great.
Beautiful.
I was playing with the curves and I came
Let
up
me see what you came up with.
elephant, dude.
Wait, how come it's not showing in the big one?
I can spotlight it.
Will you spotlight it, please, so I can see it?
Oh, it should be.
I'm not seeing it right now.
Hold on a second. Let me just remove the other spotlights.
Keep it up there for a sec there, because I can't. Yeah, there we go. Cool.
I think it kind of goes this way.
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
super neat.
I like
Those
this
are your new.
That's fun.
This is Leslie.
That's super neat, you guys.
Thank
That's
you.
great.
Oh, this way.
How are you? Nice. I really, it's kind of nice to get back into just drawing a little bit and having fun.
Oh yeah, it is really.
Awesome.
I'm really glad that you guys are showing up, and it's super fun.
Yeah, I look
I-
looking forward to it.
Oh, that's great. That's so fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. Letting us
Yeah, we'll
come.
try to come back when I can as well.
That's great.
Sounds good. Are you going to jump off now?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, guys.
Good
Well,
luck with
thank you for
the
coming.
True Care Network tonight.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you guys soon.
See you later.
Yeah.
That looks great, Woody.
We were blessed with the present of Chris and his
And Leslie.
girlfriend Leslie, who are both very intelligent people on this planet. They're also helping the cause of ending slavery one mind at a time. If you want to check out more of Chris's work, he has a podcast on the One Great Work Network as well. Just
So does
go
Leslie.
to Chris's. Oh, Leslie does as well. So
Yep.
they're both great resources that you can find along with us at the onegreatworknetwork.com. I think Chris's personal website is endevil.life. And you can go on there and you can see an archive of all his podcasts and all that stuff. So, and if you want to be courageous like they are and come on with us and put your 2 cents in like they have with us today about mentalism, you can come to drawingnaturein.com. Really easy. You just go there and then you click on schedule my free consultation, and that'll take you to a really convenient application where you can schedule time with us, where it has our schedule, so it makes sure we're not busy. We're actually going to be able to talk to you, and that we'll schedule a time to either do a Zoom call with you, or and then we'll get you all the information that you need to come on the show. We'll get you the Zoom link. We'll give you some pointers as to how you can set up a camera or a cell phone to, if you're courageous enough to want to work on some artwork here. That way people can kind of see you while you're working on your art, or even see just your art kind of unfolding live in front of the masses of people who want to watch this shenanigans. If you're a little timid and you don't think, I don't have the confidence to step out my comfort zone and go live with you guys, we've got something for you too. You can take advantage of one of our courses where we can teach you the foundational skills that you will help build your confidence to a level that you will want to come and hang out with us on these live Tuesday night salon sessions. And to me, it'd be ridiculous to be afraid to come on one of these to begin with, because we're so open and unjudgmental towards other people's artwork.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Chris is starting to look forward to it. That makes me really happy, because I think Chris is a natural artist and he just hasn't really known that up until this point, which is amazing to me that he didn't know, because he doodles all the time. But yeah, I think he's gonna blossom into an artist where he considers himself an artist, actually.
He also worked in the construction industry for a long time, which a lot of construction is kind of like sculpture. And so a lot of people who are good at that kind of stuff tend to be really good at art as well.
Yep. Oh God, when I watch Kurt, like it's incredible. I've never seen anybody do what he does. He'll take a piece of wood and he'll just cut it and then place it. Cut, place, cut, place, just like painting. And I'm like, wow, that's way past my capability when it comes to construction.
Right.
But it's pretty amazing. I mean, I told him, I'm like, you're an artist with construction. And he just looked at me like he didn't know what the hell I was talking about. But I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about. He just gets in the zone and he just makes stuff with
Right.
construction materials, concrete, wood. It's amazing.
So I managed to only paint sacred geometry lines for like 2.5 hours.
That's incredible. I mean, that's incredible that you did that, really. I mean, I'm sure they're super finessed because
I'm sure they're super imperfect if you started getting a ruler out and measuring things. And there's probably some angles that aren't totally, congruent where they're supposed to be, but that's the fun of doing it by hand.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not looking for
so funny. This thing is so funny.
Machine precision. If I were doing that, I would have just done this whole thing on the computer and printed it out.
Exactly. Oh, exactly. I mean, the stems on here are so thick, but I don't care because I'm going to put little prickers on it and hopefully they're going to stay on. I think they might actually stay on. We'll see. But yeah, it's really trippy, this thing. I mean, I never would have done this the way I'm doing it right now if I wasn't talking to you guys about natural law while I was doing it. I don't think. I would have tried to be more. I would have tried to figure out what the shape of the leaf of the pricker, the thistle leaf. I mean, I know what it is, but I didn't even bother with it. I just did what I wanted to do. And it's fine, man. It's fine. It's funky.
I think that if I were not here in this discussion, I would have looked at all those lines that I just painted, and I would have had paralysis by analysis, and I would have not done anything. I would have just turned around and went back home and watched Netflix with my wife. But, turning off my intellectual mind by joining this conversation and starting the art made me forget about all those intricacy of this thing. And so I just
yeah, and you did it. It looks great from here.
And that the sad thing is I'm probably gonna have to repaint like a bunch of these, because when I fill in the shapes, I'm gonna end up painting over these lines a little bit, and so I'm gonna have to end up painting them back in a little bit. But that's okay, because if I didn't paint these in first before I started filling in the shapes, I would have got completely lost on my shapes, and I would have lost the complete pattern probably.
Right.
And it would have been even more wonky than it is at this point.
It doesn't look wonky at all from here.
Yeah, no, I mean it's not wonky. I'm just saying, like, if I hadn't done the process I did, though, it would have gotten a lot wonkier real quick. I guarantee that.
Right.
So I've painted enough that I know what happens when you start doing stuff out of sequence to if you're trying to do something complex like this, at least.
Right. Yeah, I've never done what I'm doing right now, so I'm way in the unknown territory. And it could warp totally. That's the other thing. It could easily warp. And I don't know that I'm going to care about that. I might just be like, oh, well, the warping is part of the art. I'm not sure. We'll see.
It'll just be like, people will be like, why is your art warped? And you'll just be like, oh, because of natural law.
Exactly. Natural law. Exactly. Hey, Woody, that's my answer. I'm going to use it.
Natural law warped my art.
That's right. It did. Natural law warped my art. Oh, yeah. Yay. That's such a great answer.
And then they'll
Thank
be
you.
like, what do you mean natural law warped your art? I wasn't talking about the fact that your subject matter is warped. I was talking about the actual piece of art is warped. And then you'll be like, yes, it's because of natural law.
I think it's the law of polarity, actually.
I think that's part of it, yeah. I think the law of cause and effect's probably in there too, you know.
Right.
I don't know what other laws are there. Mentalism,
Is why it's warped.
part of it. Well, in order to be anything, you have to be part of mentalism.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Right. Exactly. You're right about that. Yep. Yep.
Well, that's interesting too, because like, well, I think there's like a book, forgot who the authors are. I think Deepak Chopra is one of them. It's called like You Are the Universe or something like that. And like it's interesting, like, you know, they talk about the whole like that Zen thing where it's like if a tree falls in the forest, what sound does it make?
Oh, no. And if you're not there, does it make a sound?
Yeah, oh yeah, if you're not there, does it make a sound? And they're like kind of talking about that notion is like if there's an occurrence in the universe, does it really happen if something doesn't observe it?
Is that the double slit experiment?
I don't know, it might kind of tie into the double slit experiment, but it's kind of like, you know, if there's nothing to observe, is there anything at all?
Well, that is the
It's,
double
it's
slit
almost like,
experiment.
is that part of the paradox? Maybe there has to be an observer in order for something to be observed to begin with.
Yeah, that is the double slit experiment. Because
And so,
that's the observer. That's what about paying attention, though, that why paying attention is so important, and the power of our attention is the second part of the existence of something.
yeah, it's like the power of our intent. And so like if more people have that same intent, then that, you know, it's more powerful because there's more of a unified intent.
Attention.
Mm-hmm.
Attentive.
Intent.
I don't know what the word is, honestly.
A unified intent. So if there's like enough people who intend the same thing, that thing's more likely to happen than if no one wants that intention to happen.
Right, but I think intend is different than attend. Attentive.
Oh yeah,
Attention is different than
intend and attend are definitely different. It's like, what is it to attend? You know. And I forgot. I'd have to like probably get back into their book and research it. But they came up with this term like qualia, and it's like they're talking about that qualia is like the quality of the experience or something like that. And so, yes, the universe has to be experienced, but what is the quality of the experience? Interesting to think about. how that works with like
One
a
of the
kid.
things I'm going to bring this up. I don't know if this is relevant or not, but about nature today, we were noticing, because my friend and I, we've been actually calling in nature spirits together, doing a whole coning thing. And one thing I noticed, because we call in Pan, is that nature is hilarious. Like, the animals are so funny. They're
Yeah.
just so funny, and it kind of is disturbing to the human who's so damn serious. Like, so at the farm, there is an elk. This elk chooses to hang out at the farm all the time, and she's freaking hilarious. And the goats were hilarious. They were so funny, like, just so I don't even know how to describe it, but they're
And
just
maybe
there's something to this, you know?
I think that there is, because that's why they always have to. You always have to have the comic relief and the Joseph Campbell's journey thing for like filmmaking and storytelling and stuff.
Oh,
It's like you always have to have that comic relief, and I think that nature that's built into nature is kind of goofy.
oh
like
my God.
it has the
Nature is
comic
just
relief
so
is built
funny.
into
They're
nature.
it's just the animals are just hilarious. They have hilarious faces. They make hilarious faces and hilarious sounds. It's a joke. It's
No,
a
it's
huge joke.
I can relate to that. Like, because I had this a couple years ago, I had this squirrel that lived on my property, and the thing was just hilarious. Like, you'd watch it, and it just like it would look at you, and it have this like goofy look on its face with like this. It could have like this massive pine cone like sticking out of its mouth, just like, like, are you happy? Are you gonna kill me or what's going on? And I'm just like, no, keep collecting your pine cones. But this like literally like, because I don't know, I guess maybe it's because I never rake my pine cones in my yard or whatever. But this thing like it collected like thousands of pine, like all summer long, this thing's collecting pine cones. And he even put them in like the right place too. Like he didn't just like collect them and pile them up like in the middle of my yard. He collected them and he piled them up in my wood pile.
Oh, wow.
And like he just was piling them up. And then like in the wintertime, you'd see him pop out and he would just be sitting there like chewing on the because he had like a whole stockpile. And now where all those pine cones were piled, there's no pine cones. There's just little crumbs of the pine cones that he gnawed up. But like this squirrel, literally, like it was amazing, like how many pine cones this thing collected. I was just like, it was just like all day long. And I just like noticed sections of my yard. I'm like, oh, there used to be like 100 pine cones over here. Now they're all gone. And they're in my wood pile, and the squirrel's chewing them up for me. So it's like I didn't even have to rake pine cones because the squirrel picked them up for me. And then like he wasn't here last year, but maybe it's just because there weren't enough pine cones there for him anymore because he already picked them all up from the year before. But yeah, it was this cute squirrel, and most people would have been like, "Damn squirrels! Like, what's he piling all those pine cones up for? I'm gonna get a trap and get rid of him." Exterminate that guy. How dare him collect pine cones? But yeah, no, it was just the funniest
Well,
thing.
yeah, it's pretty funny. I mean, it's just so interesting how funny it is. Like, it's just sort of jarring in a way. It was just funny, and funny.
I know
There
what
were
you mean.
so many things that were funny. The goats were funny. They had funny expressions on their faces. Then there was this pig that climbed up on the fence and snorted at the farmer's son, and he was hilarious. I had to stop and just laugh at that. And then the elk, and it was just, I don't know, they just were so humorous, all of it. And I thought, well, this is just so interesting that it makes you laugh. I mean, but I think there's something to that, you know?
For sure.
Oh my God, it's 7:45. Holy crap. Where did that hour go?
Yeah, I know. I told you, I'm like, holy
Whoa.
shit, I've been painting lines for 2.5 hours.
Well, I mean, they've been gone for like an hour. They left.
No, they left like 20 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, they've been.
So I'm gonna have to work on
I
this.
mean, they were here for a while, but well, I'm not sure when they joined. We're probably like maybe 30 minutes in or something. I don't know. But they were here for a while, so that was great.
Yeah,
They're
this is I
a
never
good
don't I don't think I
addition,
would have
so.
taken risks like I'm taking right now if I hadn't been on this call. I mean, there's no way. There's no way. I mean, this thing is so bizarre. I swear, this is like one of the most bizarre things I've ever done. I say that every week. And I have another one I could have worked on tonight, but I just felt like working on this one.
Mhm.
But this is just so weird. It's just so Fred Flintstone, man.
Yeah, no, I was like gonna do this whole like elaborate sacred geometry drawing with all the like hermetic principles, like all 7 of them. I was gonna start working on today, but then I was like, you know what, I'll do this other one instead because it kind of
Well,
it
what
relates
one is
as
that
well.
for? What one was that for? The one you're
Oh,
working
it's
on?
just for this one.
Yeah.
This one was I can't remember when I started it. I think I started it when we were talking about I can't remember. But
I mean,
this is
what's this one
well, this
about?
one's multifaceted. This piece is about the trivium. This
Oh,
is about the quadrivium. This is about mental schism. That's what I started about it. This was when we were talking about mental schism,
uh-huh.
because I'm going to have like mental schisms built into it. Like the whole, like right here, I'm going to have dice, like the mental schism of all things are, random. The universe is random. And then over here, as the opposite schism, I'm going to have like a puppet hand with a puppet, like, oh, everything's preordained, and then I'm going to have the schism of the rich person over here, the masculine rich who's imprisoned by his wealth. Whereas over here, you have the slave who is imprisoned by the scarcity.
Oh,
So
wow.
both of them are imprisoned. Over
Wow.
here, you have the lonely prisoner of the wealthy, paralyzed by the fear of losing their wealth. And then on the other spectrum of things, you have the complete opposite, the fear of not having, the scarcity brings on that fear of not having what you need and being enslaved by that. And so those are 2 different mental schisms. And then it's like so I have the quadrivium where I'm going to have air, fire, water, earth. And so I have earth and water as feminine components, whereas the air and fire are masculine components. And I'm going to have down here, I have another version of the quadrivium where I have mathematics and cosmology as being
Dude, in
the,
those tiny little sections?
yeah.
Wow.
And then I'm going to have over here, it's going to be music and then art represented with geometry. And so that's the quadrivium. And then there's 6 of these shapes here
Yeah.
going around this kind of like star thing. And in there, I'm going to have figures from above where you see like just like the top of their head and then like them sitting, and they're all going to be connecting hands all the way around the circle, which is going to be a representation of the male or the father, mother, child, father, mother, child, or
Wow.
mother, father, child, because we're staying on the feminine and the masculine side of things. And so that's like a representation of the trivium. And then this is the middle is just going to be kind of like this, the light, representing that light represents like love, and then like the like black darkness represents dark, which isn't going to be there, because the light of love comes from the center. When you're centered in love and light in your mind, then you're not in the schisms of like, enslaved by your and feared by your wealth, losing your wealth, versus being in fear of, scarcity, not having anything. Which actually is the same fear. It's just one has everything, but they're still scared, and one has nothing and is scared because they're a
Yeah,
slave.
because, right. Yeah, it's an illusion of what the fear actually is. It's just fear.
And then you could postulate that that's representing the law of correspondence, and you could really start. This painting could really read into a lot more. I think my original plan was actually to do it about 3 times the size that I'm doing it now.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. Because, dude, that's a lot to cram into those little tiny.
I think I'll be able to do it with the little tiny things, just be a little bit. It may not. I just won't be able to put as much detail on each facet. But it originated as a drawing on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, so I should be able to paint it on a 16 by 20 canvas. Yeah.
Wow, dude.
But yeah, so it's a pretty intense piece. I actually did the drawing in 2016 and just had a day job that I was like really enslaved in, and like really just committed a lot of my being to, and that I got ripped out from underneath me. So I've had more free time to work on the stuff that actually matters. I went through a period of self-loathing too after that, of where I just felt like I wasted like 8 years of my life going down working for this company just to be ripped right out of it into Normalville again. And you spend a lot of time and effort building those relationships and proving that you're a hard worker, and to just have that 8 years of like building just ripped out from underneath you, it's pretty jarring, to say the least. Better plug that in. But yeah, so it's nice to have a little more time to work on stuff like this. Art that I've been wanting to work on for like 4 years. Excuse me. Still have some lingering junk going on from my cold I had last week.
So I just want you to know that I just accidentally cut the wire. That I had to switch over.
Wait, what happened?
I cut the wire on my headset by accident, and I
Oh no!
had to switch over to my phone. Yes, it's terrible.
Oh man, I'm so
It's a
sorry.
terrible nightmare that I just decided to try something with a wire cutter, and I accidentally cut the wire of my headset.
Oh
So I had to
no.
switch over to my phone. So upset. It's like $30. I'm gonna have to buy a new headset.
Oh no.
Yeah, dude,
That
it's totally ridiculous. I can't believe it.
sucks. That sucks.
What price, Art, man? I just thought I
Price
wanted
we pay.
I just decided to try something where I was going to cut wire, and it's not going to work anyway because it's not going to work. But I fucking cut the wire of my headset. I cannot believe this. Oh man, this is so sad.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
I wonder if Kurt can fix it for me. Huh?
Maybe
What?
you might be able to just
Oh shit.
twist them back together.
Hold on. I guess it's. I don't know why that's suddenly happening. I don't get
You
it.
have it going
Oh,
on your
I see,
computer
because
too.
the USB still works. Well, it's because I unplugged it, and then, but I think so the USB part is still working, but the headset part isn't working. Fuck. I'm sorry. Hope no kids are listening.
It's all good. I doubt it. I usually
Shut my
mark
headset.
these as not for kids, so
So yeah, I'm a little bummed out right now.
I would be. So we're accepting donations
Pause.
for
Did that. Oh yeah.
sets. If you'd like to give us a donation, just hit on our consultation. Speak with us, but Joanna's looking for headset donation requests.
Unbelievable. No, I'll just have to buy another headset. I looked at them the other day because I would like another one, and it was $30. I was like, oh my God. Oh well, $30 is nothing. I'll just buy one.
Could be worse things you could spend on $30 on.
Yeah. I know. Maybe I'll go to Walmart, I guess, to try to get one because I need it for
But
Monday.
try to see if Kirk can wire nut that thing back together first, because he might be able to just twist a couple wire nuts on there and some, twist a couple wires together and put some electrical tape on it, and you might be rocking and rolling again. So all hope isn't lost.
Yeah. Well, that's all the art I'm gonna do right now. So
Well, we're pretty much, it's 8 o'clock anyways. 8 o'clock
good.
anyways, quitting time.
Okay.
So yeah, if you are joining us, thank you for watching another episode of Drawing Nature In. Today we discussed mentalism. Next week we are going into, I think it's correspondence is the next one. Let me just double check.
Oh well.
No, we'll be talking about correspondence next week, the second principle in the natural laws. So if you'd like to join us next week in talking about correspondence, go to drawingnaturein.com, click on the free consultation, schedule a time to chat with us, and that conversation will, tell you how to connect your device, get you all the details on the Zoom links and all this stuff so that you can join us. So go to drawingnaturein.com and you can participate with us next week. Joanna, did you have anything you wanted to add before we sign off?
No, I'm done right now.
She's done.
I'm just-
She's over it. So we're signing off. We'll talk to you next week, Joanna. Sorry to hear about your headset. Hopefully we get that resolved. And
We will.
without too much pain. And we will talk to you soon.
All right, Cole, take care. Bye.
Bye.